Hello friends, I am Arpit and I am here with today's analysis. Today is 23rd of August and we are going to cover the most important topics which are recurrently in news. Now we've been doing this for a while and we cover the topics in a holistic way. That is, these topics will be helpful for you in answering questions in prelims as well as your mains examination. So let's begin with today's analysis. We're going to cover three topics today. The first is Antidefection Law. Now this is one such law which disqualifies the lawmakers. Lawmakers can be at the central level, that is member of parliaments, and can be at the state level, that is member of legislative assemblies. Now we covered, how the lawmakers can be disqualified, on what grounds they can be disqualified. When we covered that topic, when Rahul Gandhi was reinstated into the parliament. So there we read that there are three ways in which lawmakers can be disqualified. Out of the three, two are mentioned in the Constitution, 102, 191 for MPs, for MLAs. The other one mentioned in the Constitution is Antidefection Law. Antidefection Law was not there when we framed our Constitution in 1950, when we adopted it. But later on, by the 52nd Amendment Act, which happened in 1985, this Antidefection Law was inserted. So, we will be covering today what are the grounds of disqualification in case of Antidefection Law. That is, the 52nd Amendment Act, which included or inserted the 10th schedule of the Constitution. So out of the three grounds for disqualification, two are in the Constitution. One is this, the other is Antidefection Law, and one is out of the Constitution, that is Representation of People's Act, 1951. Now, in this we studied various, sections like section 8, 9, 10, 11, which clarified the grounds of, disqualification. So we will be covering today only Antidefection Law out of these. Then we talk about this Agnipath Scheme, second topic. Agnipath Scheme was, a major overhaul in the human resources or recruitment of, cadres to the armed forces. Which kind of armed forces or which armed forces? Actually, Indian Army, Navy and Indian Air Force. Now you might be wondering that, there were exams which are already in place like NDA and CDS for this, which recruited, cadres for Indian Army, Navy and Air Force. Has Agnipath Scheme replaced NDA and CDS? No. NDA and CDS are still there. They are recruiting cadres at the officer level. But the Agnipath Scheme is recruiting cadres below the officer level. This Agnipath Scheme aims to recruit people for 4 years. Yes, it will be kind of a temporary service. And after the 4 years, 25% of the recruited cadres will be retained on the basis obviously of their performance in 4 years, and the rest will be, laid off And they'll not only be laid off just like that, they will be having a sum of around 11.7 lakhs rupees in their kitty, in their bank account. How that sum will come, we'll see that as well. So, we'll see the nitty-gritties of this Agnipath Scheme, also the analysis, what are the challenges, concerns with respect to this scheme, and we'll also try to draw international parallels, like this kind of scheme of temporary, employment in the armed forces is there in any other country or not. So all these things we'll be covering here in this Agnipath Scheme. And the last is aging workforce in India, a paradox. Now, why we are calling it a paradox? Because the Prime Minister in his Independence Day speech said that, we are gifted with young population. The other countries in the world, they are moving towards aging, and we are moving towards youthful dynamism. We have the maximum under 30 population. Means we have this young, energetic, dynamic workforce. But the Indian Express, took out data from, I would say, an organization, Center for Monitoring Indian Economy. And that data actually points out towards the fact that in the job market in India, those people who are in this age bracket of 45 to 60, actually it has divided it into 3 age brackets. First is 15 to 30, second is 31 to 44, and fourth is 45 to 60. Or we can say it 15 to 29, 30 to 45, and 46 to 60. Now the maximum workforce in India in the job market, those who are working as working professionals, those who are doing jobs, they are the maximum here in this category. Not here, not here. And why we are calling it a paradox? Because India is the youngest country. But still, workforce in these categories is less than the workforce in this particular category. So we'll decode this, and we'll also be discussing in brief about what needs to be done so that the workforce increases in this category. So let's begin with today's analysis. That is the first topic, anti-defection law. Now I've already laid the groundwork. Ways how a lawmaker can be disqualified. There are 3 ways, out of which 2 are mentioned in the Constitution. One, Article 102 and 191 we are not discussing, and the second is anti-defection law, which is mentioned in the Constitution. Where in the Constitution? It is mentioned in the 10th schedule. This 10th schedule was inserted by the 52nd Amendment Act of 1985, which clearly means that it was not there at the time of adoption of our Constitution. And it disqualifies those lawmakers who voluntarily give up their party membership. And there are other grounds as well, but the main ground is this. Like, let's suppose I got elected to Lok Sabha on party X's ticket. But when I entered Lok Sabha, I gave up the membership of party X and adopted membership of party Y. So I have defected, and I will be disqualified automatically as per the provisions of this anti-defection law, which is there in the 10th schedule inserted by the 52nd Amendment Act of 1985. We cannot do this. Legislators, lawmakers cannot do this, getting elected on X party's ticket, voluntarily giving up their membership of X party and joining Y party after getting elected. No, you cannot do that. However, there are certain exceptions, because this kind of thing happened last year in Maharashtra when there was a split in the Shiv Sena, where Uddhav Thackeray faction was there and the Shinde faction was there, Eknath Shinde faction. So let us look into this. None of them were disqualified last year, remember. Now, grounds for disqualification. There are 4 grounds for disqualification. The first ground we have already discussed, voluntarily giving up his or her membership. This is the main ground why this anti-defection law was brought into, I would say, existence. The second ground is if a member votes or abstains from voting in such house contrary to any direction issued, that is whip, by his political party. Now, if in the parliament or in legislative assemblies, there are discussions on various, I would say, important bills, important issues of national concern, of local concern. Like, for example, the Manipur issue was of national concern and a lot of discussion happened during the monsoon session. Now, if there is a voting on any issue or any bill and the party wants all of its members who are there as members of the house, whether the legislative assembly or the parliament, they can issue orders to every member that you have to vote in this favor or against this. And if any lawmaker does not abide by the orders of the party high command, then that is equivalent to defection, and that person can be disqualified according to the anti-defection law. And this is one of the biggest criticism also of this law, because a lawmaker does not have the freedom to act in his, I would say, discretion. He has to act on the whip issued, whether he agrees with the matter or disagrees. Is it truly upholding the democratic ideals or democratic values? I don't think so, and that is why this is the biggest criticism of this particular anti-defection law, because this particular, I would say, ground for defection actually is not in line with liberal democratic ideals. So, if there is a question based on critically analyze the anti-defection law, then definitely you can write this point. Then the third is nominated member. In Rajya Sabha there are 12 nominated members. Now no nominated members in Lok Sabha. Earlier there used to be 2 nominated members in Lok Sabha also. But yes, as of now there are 12 nominated members in Rajya Sabha. And these nominated members, if join any political party after expiry of 6 months, let's suppose today is August 23, okay, and I become a member of Rajya Sabha today, a nominated member of Rajya Sabha, and I get nominated by the president, and I am among those 12 members of nominated members of Rajya Sabha. So after the expiry of 6 months from now, that is August is going on, so February it is. In March or April, I decide to join party X. If I do so, I will be disqualified. Means I can do within 6 months. This is again a loophole. Again a shortcoming of this bill. Then the fourth ground is an independent member if he joins any political party at any point of time. Now let's suppose I contest as an independent candidate from my constituency. I am not affiliated to any political party. I win the elections, I reach Lok Sabha, but after reaching, I join a political party who is in power, let's suppose. Then my membership will be cancelled. I will be disqualified to be a lawmaker. So these are the 4 grounds for disqualification. Now who decides on disqualification? This is also very, very important. The presiding officer of the house. If that member belongs to Rajya Sabha, then the chairman of Rajya Sabha, who also happens to be the vice president. If that member belongs to Lok Sabha, then the speaker of Lok Sabha. If that member is an MLA, then the speaker of the state legislative assembly will be deciding. Now, is the decision of this presiding officer binding, or is it subject to judicial review? Can the person who has been disqualified by the orders of presiding officer on the grounds of defection, can that person appeal? Actually, yes. Now that person can appeal in the High Court or Supreme Court. But, up till 1992, from 1985 this law came, till 1992, that person could not appeal. The orders of the presiding officer of the house was final and binding. But in 1992, the Supreme Court allowed appeals against the presiding officer's decision in the High Court and Supreme Court. Now the disqualified person on the grounds of defection can appeal against the order of the presiding officer if that person feels that he or she has been disqualified on malified grounds. So this is there. Now let's talk about the exceptions in this particular bill. Now there are a few exceptions, like let's suppose there is a political party. This is the total membership of the political party, let's suppose. Now if 2/3 of the members of this political party decide to break ways and form, let's suppose, another political party or join another political party. If the 2/3 members decide that they want to join another political party, they can. if they wish to come out of this faction and remain as a new political party. They do not want to join any political party, but they remain as a new political party. Then in both of these cases, they are not disqualified. These 2/3 members also will not be disqualified, and the remaining 1/3 will also not be disqualified. They will not be disqualified if 2/3 want to join a new political party, or means another political party, or they do not want to join any political party, but they want to remain as a separate faction. Now in Maharashtra, the Eknath Shinde faction, they have remained as a separate faction. They have not joined any political party. They formed coalition with others, but they have not joined any. So they are not disqualified. Neither is I would say, this Thackeray faction of Shiv Sena. They are also not disqualified because this 2/3, 1/3 ratio was met. Now, if a person is elected as a speaker of Lok Sabha or chairman of Rajya Sabha or the speaker of state legislative assembly, then that person can voluntarily give up his or her membership of the political party because he or she is sitting on a neutral chair. He or she is having that rank of presiding officer, and presiding officer is expected to be neutral, and because of this assumption, you can give up on your membership of a particular political party on which you got elected. Now, once you give up, you are not disqualified. Once your tenure is over, you can again rejoin as a member of that particular political party. So that is an exception, that if on being appointed or elected as a speaker or chairman, you give up, voluntarily give up the membership of your political party, you are not disqualified. So this is there. Various recommendations with respect to the law, and there are shortcomings in the law we've discussed, and hence there are various recommendations also. And first recommendation which we're going to cover is the Dinesh Goswami Committee on Electoral Reforms. This particular committee said that disqualification should be limited to the following cases. First is a member voluntarily gives up the membership of a political party, which was the first ground for disqualification. This should be there. Second is a member abstains from voting or votes contrary to the party whip, which was, contentious, or there was a shortcoming in this because I said that democratic ideals are not being allowed. So Dinesh Goswami Committee is saying if a member abstains from voting or votes contrary to the party whip, then that member should be disqualified. But there is a catch here. That whip should be issued for vote of confidence or motion or no confidence. In that scenario only, a person should not abide, if that person is not abiding by the whip of the political party, if there is a vote of confidence or no confidence, then that person should be disqualified. In other cases, when a whip is issued, other cases other than vote of confidence or no confidence, in other cases if it is issued, then the person can deny to obey the whip, and in that case he should not be disqualified. Now this is what Dinesh Goswami Committee said. Then Law Commission 170th report, provisions which exempt splits and mergers from disqualification to be deleted. This 2/3, 1/3, this provision should be deleted. This should not be there. Even if 2/3 they are splitting, they should be disqualified. Why they are splitting? It is like this. Then pre-poll electoral fronts should be treated as political parties under anti-defection. Now there is a pre-poll political front which is already formed before the general elections of 2024. This is India. Now if any particular political party which is already part of India, after getting elected comes out of India, then those should be disqualified. However, this is just a recommendation. I am just trying to explain this point by this India, a pre-poll alliance. This is an example of a pre-poll alliance. Then next is political parties should limit issuance of whips to instances only when the government is in danger, means confidence or no confidence. The Law Commission report says that whips should only be issued in this condition. For other reasons, whips should not be issued. The Dinesh Goswami Committee, which we covered in the last slide, said that, whips can be issued, but, lawmakers will be disqualified only if they do not adhere to or obey the whips which are specifically issued for saving the government, means confidence or no confidence motions. Else they should not be disqualified if they are not obeying the whip. Then the last is Election Commission. What has the Election Commission to say for anti-defection law? Now, decisions under the 10th schedule should be made by the President or Governor on the binding advice of the Election Commission, because for the disqualification of the lawmakers, the elected representatives, Election Commission has no role to play according to the anti-defection law, and they want a role. And this role is, they are saying that Election Commission will recommend the disqualification to the President or the Governor in case of MLAs, President in case of MPs. And they should be disqualified. This recommendation should be binding on the President and Governor, and they have to act in accordance. So, this is what the Election Commission has to say about this. So, this was about anti-defection law. Now, the next is the Agnipath Scheme. It is a major defense policy reform undertaken by the government in 2022 for 3 services. 3 services: Indian Army, Navy and Air Force. And that too, it is limited to that level which are non-officer ranks. Okay. The officer ranks are still recruited by NDA, CDS, and those are permanent hirings. But this is kind of a temporary hiring. It is an idea of a short-term recruitment model, or tour of duty it is called as. In defense parlance, it is called as tour of duty. Was first mooted around 3 years back from now, that is in 2020, for the selection of officers and jawans for a limited number of vacancies. Youth from 17.5 years to 21 age group. Actually, last year when the scheme was introduced in 2022, this age was relaxed till 23. And this age relaxation was given by the Government of India because there was no recruitment for 2 years. So those people who were waiting for recruitment to come were given relaxation, and that was a one-time concession only given by the government. So, वैसे it is 21 years, but last year it was 23 years. So 17.5 till 23 years. They will be selected under the scheme known as the Agniveers. These people who will be selected will be called as Agniveers, who will be enrolled for a period of 4 years. They would be formed, or they would form a distinct rank in the armed forces different from any other existing ranks. What will happen upon the completion of 4 years? Upon the completion of 4 years of services, Agniveers will be offered an opportunity to apply for permanent enrollment in the armed forces. And 25% of them, that is 1/4 of the recruited cadres of that particular batch, will be inducted as permanent employees, and the rest 75% will be laid off. However, this 25%, 75%, this ratio is under consideration of the government presently. But as of now, it is 25%, 75%. Has the Agnipath scheme come into picture? Yes, the first hiring of under the Agnipath scheme was of around 46,000, cadres. Out of 46,000, 40,000 were in the army, 3,000 Navy, Air Force. Last year December, they had been chosen. They have now completed their training and have now been inducted into the services. That is, this last month only they have been inducted. That is why this scheme was in news. Now this year again there will be a paper. They will be shortlisted, they will be screened, and then they will be inducted. Out of this, 25% will be retained after 4 years, 75% will be laid off as per the existing scheme. Now, what will be their pay scale? What will be the benefits? Let's look into that as well. Now, this is basic pay per month. In the first year, an Agniveer will be receiving 30,000 rupees per month. Second year, it will increase to 10%, 33,000. Third year, 36,500. Fourth year, 40,000 per month. Now, every month in the first year, 30,000 per hand is being received. Out of 30,000, 70%, that is 21,000 will be in hand, and 30%, that is 9,000 per month, will be contributed to Seva Nidhi. Similarly, in the next year, 9,900 per month will be contributed to Seva Nidhi. In-hand salary will be 23,100. The next year, 10,950 will be contributed to Seva Nidhi per month, and 25,580 will be the in-hand salary. Fourth year, 12,000 will be contributed to Seva Nidhi, and 28,000 will be the in-hand salary. By the end of 4 years, the contribution from the Jawans, from the Agniveer's salary to the Seva Nidhi will be 5.02 lakhs. The same amount will be contributed by the Government of India, that is 5.02 lakh, and that will make the total to 10.04 lakh. Not only this, on this 10.04 lakh rupees, there will be interest which will be earned by them. 10.04 lakh plus the interest of these 4 years on this particular amount will make the amount equal to 11.71 lakh. Means this much will be in the bank account of the Agniveer who is getting laid off at the end of 4 years. Who is not getting laid off also will have the same amount, but that person will have an added advantage, that is, he will be part of or a permanent cadre of the armed forces. So this is, I would say, the pay structure for 4 years. 10.04 lakh, 5.02 lakh contributed by the Jawan, that is Agniveer, an equal amount contributed by the government, which makes it 10.04 lakh. On 10.04 lakh, interest will be paid. After the interest addition, 11.71 lakh rupees will be there in the bank account. That 11.71 lakh rupees can be invested on higher studies, can be invested on entrepreneurship, can be invested on any other thing, or helping or supporting the family also. Now, there are certain concerns about this particular scheme, because when this particular scheme was launched last year, there was a lot of havoc, there was a lot of, I would say, ruckus also created by the youth of the country. But then the political, or I would say the defense experts came out with genuine concerns, and we should as aspirants know these concerns. The first concern is building cohesion. You know, when you are there in the armed forces, you need to build cohesion with your team members. If you are not cohesive with your team members, it will be very difficult to fight the enemy as a unit. And it takes a lot of time to build this cohesion. It also takes a lot of time to, have that feeling of patriotism in you. And 4 years time is, my friends, not enough. And that is why this building cohesion will not happen. By the time cohesion will start to build, your service tenure will end. So this is one such concern. Second is, might not attract the best candidates. Now the best candidates, they will be looking for permanent avenues of employment. Permanent avenues like, paramilitary forces or the state police. Now earlier, before this Agniveer scheme or Agnipath scheme, they were wanting to go to the army. But now they will be fearful, what will happen after 4 years? Their future is not certain. So they will try to, look for other avenues. And that is why the talent can be diverted away from the armed forces. Then unfair to the potential recruit. It is definitely unfair to the potential recruit, because, that potential recruit will be in his or her 20s when the service tenure of 4 years will get over. Having no, I would say, civilian skills, because for 4 years he has learned combating skills or the military skills. And then it will be difficult for that youth to cope up. And that can lead to disastrous, I would say, circumstances as well. Now, disastrous circumstances like potential militarization of the society can happen. Now, these type of people, they can, because they are having that combating skills, They know how to use a gun. They can join organized criminal gangs, groups, if they'll be paid good amount of money. They can do contract killings. They can do, I would say, they can spread crime. So, potential militarization of the society can happen. And last concern is less training time. Actually, it takes 2 to 3 years to train an army person. But here, we are only training them for 6 months. Will they be so effective? I don't think so, because at par with 2 to 3 years, they will not be so effective. Plus, the armed forces will also have to drastically overhaul their training procedures, because their training sessions or their training, I would say, curriculum is designed for 2 to 3 years now. They'll have to shorten it to 6 months. So that is also a concern. So these are the following, or these are the concerns with respect to the Agnipath scheme. Now, some global practices like temporary hiring in the armed forces. The Russian military does it. It is a combination of a traditional cadre and reserve conscript system. First you get hired on temporary basis. You get fired also, and some of them become permanent. Then the Israel army. There for men there is this conscript of 32 months. For females it is 24 months. Followed by a decades long period of compulsory reserve duty. There everyone has to serve in the armed forces. And everyone means everyone. And once they serve this period, then they go out for traveling. Many Israelis come to India who have just completed their service in the armed forces of Israel. Then for French soldiers also this scheme is there, kind of. There are actually two possibilities, 1 year contract or 3 to 5 years contract. Both are renewable in nature. So it is not, I would say India is not the first country to roll out such scheme. There are schemes with other countries as well, and these are, militarily very sound countries. We have the youth, we have the population, we have the numbers. Let us just use them in a right way. Although there are concerns with respect to the scheme, no doubt about the fact. But let us see how this scheme turns out to be. Our National Security Advisor, Mr. Ajit Doval, was also very hopeful in one of his interviews about this Agnipath scheme. And that was the time when the Agnipath scheme was just rolled out. So let us see how this happens. And next is the last piece of news which we are going to cover today, that is aging workforce in India. Now I told you that there is a paradox, and that paradox has been unearthed by the Indian Express on the basis of data from Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, CMIE. It is a think tank which releases or has data with respect to the Indian economy, various sectors of the Indian economy, the workforce of the Indian economy. And when we are talking about the workforce, we are only talking about the people who are there in the job sector, who are working as servicemen in primary, secondary, tertiary, any sector. Now, what is the paradox? Despite being the youngest country of the world, having the highest under 30 population, the age structure of our workforce depicted more workers of 45 years or more compared to 15 to 30 or 30 to 45. So this particular, I would say, report has trifurcated our workforce into 15 to 30, 30 to 45 and 45 to 60. So in the job sector, the maximum people are here, not here. And despite being the youngest country, we are not here. What can be the reasons? Although the reasons have not been highlighted, but is it that people are going for self-employment, or more and more people are going for self-employment, entrepreneurship? They are not becoming part of the job sector or the workforce. If that is the case, that is good. Entrepreneurship is increasing. But there's a catch here also. What if self-employment of, I would say, unskilled sector is happening? Like more and more people are going and opening up, I would say, pan stalls or, chai stalls or I would say small, eateries like this. They will be self-employed. They will be called as nano entrepreneurs. They will be kind of street vendors. But they will not be generating so much money. They will always be vulnerable. They are one of the most vulnerable groups, as we saw it in PM Swanidhi Yojana. That is not good. Also, we saw it in PM Usha, which we covered. Which was targeting higher education. And in this particular topic, we saw that the National Education Policy of 2020 targets 50% gross enrollment ratio in higher education institutes in India by 2035. Now, around 26 to 27% of our youth, or 26 to 27% is the gross enrollment ratio in higher education. Means only 26 to 27% of the youth are going for graduation. The rest, 73-74% are not going for graduation. And these 73-74% become street vendors or those who are becoming self-employed and less productive sectors. In less productive sectors or unproductive sectors they are employed. So does this, I would say, statistic have the answer that less number of people are here and here? If yes, then this is very, very important. This PM Usha aims to increase the number of graduates. If graduates more and more will be there, then we will see definitely more and more workforce in this age group. So this is how you have to interlink the topics and think. You need to be a thinking mind to crack this examination. Now this graph was there in today's Indian Express on the explained page. Now this magenta line which you see is basically the workforce in 15 to 30. Okay, I'll just highlight 15 to 30. Now you can see earlier in 2016-17, 25% of the total workforce was from this particular category, but in 2022-23 only 17% is from this category. Means it has reduced the workforce or the people in job sector in this particular age group. Then considering this age group, that is 30 to 45, it was 38%, it is 33%. This has also reduced. This reduced, this reduced. Now comes 45 above. 37% was there in 2016-17 and 2022-23, 49%, roughly means half of the workforce is in this age group presently, 45 above. Then employment figures and rates for 15 to 29 age group. This particular age group, there were around 35 crore 50 lakh 47,857 people, total people in this category in 2016-17. Now the population, total population in this category, that is 15 to 30 years, has increased to 38 crore. Employed are 7 crore, earlier employed were 10 crore. So employment rate has drastically dropped from 29% to 19% in the age group 15 to 30 years. Then this table 3, employment figures and rates for 45 years or older, this 45 years or above. Total population 32 crore was there in 2016-17, now 2022-23, 45 crore, means a jump of roughly 13 crore. Employed 15 crore out of 32 crore in 2016-17 with an employment rate of 47%. Now employed are 19 crore. Although the employment rate has dropped from 47 to 44% because population has increased, but it is also the lowest drop. This drop is very highest from 29% to 19%. It is 47% to 44% only. And in absolute numbers, number of employed have gone up. Here it is 19 crore, here it was 15 crore. But why we are seeing this drop? Because this population has increased rapidly in this particular age bracket. Employment rate for 55 to 59 age group. Now 55 to 59 age group is, I would say, the end of this particular age group. 45 and above we are seeing 45 to 60, but the last 5 years of this age group, if we consider, there we see a growth in employment rate. 54% is the employment rate in that particular age bracket. That is the last age bracket, last 5 years. Earlier it was 50% in 2016-17. Employment figures for 25 to 29 age group, that is the last, I would say, 5 years for in this particular age bracket, 15 to 30. The last 5 years in this age bracket, population 10 crore was there in 2016-17. 2022-23, the population is less, that is somewhere around 7 crore, 7.5 crore. But employed in absolute numbers have also, I would say, decreased. 5 crore were there earlier, employment rate was 50%, now it is 4 crore. 54% is the employment rate. So employment rate per se has increased 50 to 54%, but in absolute numbers it has reduced. The number of employed were 5 crore, now it is only 4 crore. Population has also reduced from 10 crore to 7.5 crore, that is the reason. So these are some statistics which can be, useful in certain type of questions where you are asked to, critically analyze those kind of topics or those kind of facts, that we are a youthful population, we are the youngest population and we are doing a lot for our youth. The youth are in a better position now. But this particular data can be mentioned by you in your answers or in your essays. But while mentioning such data in your answers or in your essays, you definitely need to have references. And reference for this kind of data is the CMIE, that is Center for Monitoring Indian Economy. That particular think tank is giving this data. So you have to pre-mention and specifically mention that according to CMIE, this is there. You don't have to write it in without references. So this data can be used in those contexts. What steps need to be taken? Definitely one step which I think needs to be taken is increase the gross enrollment ratio in higher education. If gross enrollment ratio in higher education is improved, then this particular, I would say, age bracket will see more and more people in the job sector. We should also look for employment generation avenues, employment in skilled sector. So that definitely will increase, or I would say alter, the composition or the age composition of this job market in India. Is this the need of the hour? Definitely it is. So this is all from today's session. We will be meeting with certain, I would say, very, very important topics in tomorrow's session as well. Till then, keep studying, keep reading, keep revising. That is it. Jai Hind. Bye-bye.